Now I'm pretty sure you can see more books. So let's get ready to rumble. Hi fellow readers! Here I am again in the second video of my channel, which will be actually the first one where I talk about my precious ones, aka my books. Well, you will notice a slight change of scenery, and also that I am certainly not wearing makeup right now this time, but I have I hope a little better hairstyle than the last time. As I said in those videos, this is about my reading diary to me. I don't mind if people watch or not those videos, so I'm not gonna film with any particular effort of appearance for you. I make those videos according to my mood of the day, and if today I decided that I am way too lazy to do my makeup, I won't. And if I decide that I don't care if my hair is a mess, it will be a mess. But yeah. Also, on an editing side, I managed as I could the last video, especially now I will divide into two videos, as you probably noticed. One is in French, the other is in English. I'm not doing the bilingual thing in just one vid now because it would be way too long. Like, I'm pretty sure my French version of the video that I just filmed will be like as long as the last video I posted, so we won't be making an hour of a video. I'm making two videos that together will probably do like 30 minutes each. Also, I hope my English accent is way better than the last time. Like, it wasn't that harsh, a French accent you could hear, but like we could feel that I wasn't really being comfortable. I hope I am more now. Also, I hope I am looking way much down my notes, because I put some notes not to, get distracted and talk away from the subject. I want to stay concise and precise in what I have to say, but also I kind of need to be sure like I'm not stuttering too much, not making too many grammar faults, and that I am actually smooth, so that it's not too boring for you guys. Also, I hope you didn't think my faces and expressions were too much. If not, I'm not sorry, it's just me, I'm like that, and like I said, anyways, those videos are for me, so let's keep it going. Just to warn you guys, I have not yet really chosen at what exact time period will I post my videos. I only know that it will be the Sundays, and that's because I am filming from usually Wednesday to Saturday, and the editing being new for me, it will take the time that it will need. Last time it was like pretty soon in the afternoon I posted. It was because I had my boyfriend's help. Now I'm probably gonna do this on my own, so I don't know if it's gonna be posted in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening. Potentially I will try to avoid the night, because like it would be not very like pro or cool to work on a video for that long. That will be all for the little news break of the channel and of a personal matter. Let's get to the purpose and the fun part of my channel's return. Today I want to speak about 3 books, favorite sagas / series of mine. These are the books that I have reread loads of time. And for 2 of these collections, I watched absolutely all the adaptation in existence for them on the small and the big screen. So the first one I will be speaking about is the great classic that we don't even need to introduce anymore, since you can see. So part of my decor is inspired by it. I will still explain to you why this remains a literary series that remains like so close to my heart, like so major to me. I even have the paper collection with me at the very top of this magnificent bookcase. Drum roll. I'm talking about Harry Potter. Harry Potter. I don't know how to say Harry Potter or Harry Potter. Yes, I am a Potterhead, indeed. On a side note, I must confess I never bought any of my HP items, nor the books. Everything was either gifts or donations, and I clearly do not support JKR nor her projects with HBO to reboot HP as a series. Instead of finally giving us a project about our dearest marauders, so that we finally get more canon plots about them, please. Okay, now let's close this parenthesis. I have loved HP films since forever, since I started them for a very long time so now. So I watched them probably around 7, and I know that for a fact that like at 10 or 11 I went to the cinema with my mother to watch like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, and I was basically pissed that it was stopping like at such a climax, and my mom was like, yeah, there's gonna be a part 2, and I was like, no, I want it now. What do you mean part 2? I want the story now. I want to know. and so yeah, that was fun. So eventually from now on I'm watching it every year. I know I've watched it with my family one by one for the first time, like I said, at about 7, and I've since then showed them to my sister, to my brother, and my sister is basically a fan now. My brother liked it, but I'm not sure he's gonna watch it like again. So I went to start the books at about 8 years old, because it was a time I was reading a lot, but it was not like that many big books. So when I read it, I actually didn't enjoy it as much as I would later on, because it was too big for such a little girl. I might have been the one who read the most in school, but like that was still a lot. So I restarted the first book and read for the first time the rest of the books in middle school, when I enjoyed it way much more, because I really loved the movies. I was watching them so much, but I had so many questions about the world building and also the relations, like how did they evolve like that, because there was only like glimpses compared to what it is in the books, and I already felt like I would get much more details in the books, like so I was like, let me reread those books, because I need to know how did we get from here to that's like, that was especially like in the romantic parts of it. I was like so intrigued to get more into it in the books, and rightfully so, since it was the case, and I loved it even more because I loved so many of those things and details and thoughts about Harry Potter in the books that weren't in the movie. I reread those in high school. It was right at the time I was about to start my slump, so it was the only thing that was holding me back from actually quitting from reading sooner than I did. And I reread them in English, like I said in my previous video, because like our teacher was like, hey, you need to read books in English, and I was like, okay, I will read Harry Potter, because I already know the books, I already know the story, but I want to read it in English to like see it in his VO, I guess. So in short, you've guessed it, I really love relationships and like character developments in books usually, and any genre of fiction actually. That's like my really strong thing, even in series, movies, sagas, books. I need to feel connected to the characters and to, I guess, grow with them. Also, it is quite an obvious answer, but I evidently love the magical universe in these books. And also the annual side of the novels, like the fact that you actually have a whole school year with the characters was like, I didn't read that many books who did that, and I really liked that because I read those when I was in school, middle school, high school. Each time I got the feeling like it was made for me, which was like actually the case, because books, Harry Potter's are made for children and for younglings, like teenagers. Okay, so for those who are still reluctant to read these novels because they are big and you are afraid because there's like 7 and you might think this is too much, you are allowed to take your damn time while reading, like nobody is rushing you. But it's definitely worth it. It's like a classic for the literature, especially if you're into fantasy and stuff like that. There are so many little details that are omitted in the films and yet add so much to the story, and sometimes explain a whole scene that happened in the movie, or something that was like forgotten in the previous one because they thought it didn't matter. But then for the later one films and books, it's actually an important kind of piece of information and just items usually that would have been useful to be introduced sooner rather than just blatantly showed at the end. And in the books you have that, so everything is important. Like, that's what I love about books, it's every detail. And usually in films adaptation, they have to choose what to put in these 2 hours long movies instead of like 6 hours of read in the best case scenario. and so they make sometimes the choices that I was like, yeah, it makes sense, but I really loved those details you forgot. Why? I need them. And so I obviously at least got them in the book, so yeah. Frankly, it's a wonderful experience that you must at least try once to follow and to give it a chance. I am fully recommending it, even though, you know, the writer is not to be recommended. And my second favorite series of this video, although it's like almost the first in my heart, because Harry Potter is the one I've known the longest, but this one I'm still reading it as it goes because it's not over. I know that for those of you that are in the bookworm community, it's an extremely well-known series for teenagers, or for those who have seen the Netflix series and even seen, which is like so rare, the 2013 movie, which never knew a sequel because it didn't like perfectly land on its feet, either with the fans or the ones that didn't know the story. Usually that happens for many book adaptations, unfortunately. Or fortunately, once again, it's a debate I'm not ready to get into. But for those who arrived and somehow discover only booktube through me and never been like recommended, advised those books, or just were but like never got to really know what it was about, and were just like intimidated by the length of this series, trust me, it is worth it. Like, I'm talking about the Shadowhunter Chronicles. This is like a blast to get into. So about the order, there's the first series of 6 books that was called the Mortal Instruments, that are the basis of all this storyline and all. It's happening during the 2007, around the 2010. I think the first book was published in 2007. It is written by Cassandra Clare, and so this is about a modern, well, a 2007 girl called Clary Frey/Fairchild, and her best friend who's secretly having a crush on her, Simon Lewis, and the way her world turned upside down because she's discovering this whole shadow world, this whole fantastic universe that when she met Jace Wayland, Alec Lightwood and Isabel Lightwood, aka Shadowhunters. Before Cassandra Clare wrote the last or almost last one books, she wrote the Origins, which are the Infernal Devices, 3 books, a trilogy. Once again, a bit about a love triangle, but this time it was like so much better. Like the love triangle in the original series doesn't last that long, and actually every side character finds someone, and that's what I like about it. In the Origins, it follows Tessa Gray, William Herondale and Jem Carsters, and it's like my favorite series of all the saga because it is wonderful. Like, it's beautifully written. Whoever you want her to be with at the end, it's like an amazing choice, the way it was portrayed, and it makes me cry. Even if you don't like the character that actually is supposed to make you cry in the story, I'm pretty sure you at least get a bit emotional. Like, that's the better series she wrote in all of this, and that's why it's such an important literary book thing that is so well known now, because of these 3 books that are like top notch. And after the 2010s, at the end of the last books, we introduced 2 children who are having some kind of traumatic event during the final battle thing, and it's Emma Carsters and Julian Blackthorne, and they are actually going to be the main characters of the last prequel that is happening like during more modern times, so almost the 2020s. And it's about them and what they have to go through. So the dark artifices, they are Shadowhunters. None of them are new to the world. Tessa Gray and Clary were new to the world. Those 2 grew up in it and grew up together, and we have the whole family construction around them, and the whole aftermath of what happened in the original saga that kinda is dealt with in it, and that's what is interesting. Also, sometimes they're crossovers, so the characters of the original saga comes and make an appearance, I would say, and you like to see how they grow, how they are doing at the time, 10 years or so later. Whereas the Origins is about great grandfathers and grandmothers of our ancestors of our original bunch. It's during the 80s, not 80s, 1080 something, 800 something. So yeah, that's much more in the past. And actually, she just wrote recently the last book of her 4th series in all of this, and that's the children of Tessa Gray, James Arundel, Jem Carsters, the generations of side characters and main characters of the origins are having children, and we are following their adventures in the Last Tower series. So it is about James Herondale, Cordelia Carstairs, Matthew Fairchild, and the Lightwoods. Like, the Lightwoods are in almost all of the series except the last one, but in the last one Emma Carstairs is like a descendant of James Carstairs, so you know everything is related. That's what I like about this saga, like everything is interconnected, and stuff that happens in the previous books makes sense for what happens in the last ones, and sometimes also kinda are about events that are mentioned that built this whole shadow world that is hidden from the mundane people like us. But contrary to Harry Potter, the mundane people are more intertwined with the story, because there's the question of what happens when they do see stuff that are not normal, because in Harry Potter that was like very much avoided, except that Muggle-borns have Muggle parents, but that's the only thing that says that there are normal people. We are more focused into the magical world, whereas here we have the magical, the whole fantastic world with vampires, werewolf, demon, angels and all, but there is also the mundanes and how do they interact with it. It was much more than in the two last sagas, and also it was quite historical also for the two previous one, aka chronically, also with the last one written. It's such a word, it's such a blast to get into it. I really recommend it, because once you get past the like the first or three first books of the saga of the beginning, the Mortal Instruments, it's actually getting better and better, and it's because like Cassandra Clare is, well, getting experience and knowing her audience and knowing what we want, and actually writes beautiful like relations between the characters, beautiful found family tropes, beautiful oh my god, best friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, passionate love stories, romantic relations. I really love this saga. So I was in middle school when I actually started to read those, and I'm still reading them because I didn't read the last book of Last Hour. My favorite series, as I said, was the Origins with the Infernal Devices. The Last Hour is probably the one I like it. It's just like because I had so many pauses between each of the books, because now I have to wait for the publish dates to read those. I sometimes forget plot lines, and so I have much less in my mind, but the characters and their names and their relationship. Also, I feel like I ship, because I'm multi-shipper, but like I ship more one person with another, and I think that genealogically they are not gonna end up together, because how would later on the descendants be there if these two are together? But I don't know, I'm still like kind of curious of how she will end it. The one I was like much less of a fan was like the more recent one, time-wise in the story, the Dark Artifices. The male main character is not usually my type, and also there's a friends to lovers trope, family kinda, but also like very traumatic. It's interesting for the crossovers that happens of the previous characters, and also the aftermath of what happened, but I'm like not convinced by the ending of it. Like I really expect something after, because I was like, really, this is how it ends? Huh, weird, because I'm expecting more. Either I don't remember it, either there's just not an ending yet for this. Like, it's weird how that ended, but I really recommend it still, because there's many good well, ships, but also like plot lines in it. It's just, I love it so much, and I grew up so much with this, that if I had to pick the least favorite bit of the story, that would be this last trilogy. Otherwise, reading it as a whole, you can do that. I recommend it. That's what I did, and I love it still. And actually, if you want to read just the base, the origins, that works too. If you want to read just the origins and then the last hour, I guess that kind of works too. But I would say what is impossible, or really weird at least, would be to read the Dark Artifices, the last trilogy in the chronicle order of the story, not of the publishing. Would be to read just that, because you have no context for all of the rest of the world building, the family relations, and kind of the backstory of the characters, plus the universe that is created. But I really recommend it, so trust me, if you're a bit scared, you have no reason at all to be so, because it is worth the while. Let's move on to the third and final book series that I absolutely love of the video. My third favorite series has no adaptation on the screen, unfortunately. Somehow they would probably ruin it, but at the same time I would be hopeful. Like, I would be so delighted if suddenly there was an announcement that this would get an adaptation. That would be cool. I guess that would make the book more noticed, but I think in the book community it is pretty well known. Okay, so it's a story that remains engraved in my mind, and of which I was offered the collector's box on my last birthday, so I present it to you with great pride in my video decor. I am talking about another chronicle, but this one much shorter, and this is a series. This is not a saga, because there's not different timelines. Well, there is for the little black flashback, but not whole series divided and different timelines and different characters. It follows actually quite the same kind of thing. So I'm talking about the Lunar Chronicles right here. I hope you can see those. I will speak about the order. It's pretty simple. It's like it is put in this collect box. The first book is Cinder, the second one is Scarlet, the third one is Crest, and the fourth one is Winter. It's like the last one, main novel. There's little novellas that you can choose to read after or before, actually, I don't know, whatever you chooses, like Fairest, and there's also a novel about Cinder that is called Once Cinder, and Stars Above, apparently. I don't know if that's the book of after Winter, so the ending of the whole adventure, or if it is and also a little story about before, because I haven't read that. I didn't know there was Stars Above. When I was given the collection, I was surprised. I added it to my to be read list, and I hope it's gonna be good. I usually trust the writer, so this is Marissa Mayer's work. I know she also wrote Renegades and some other stories about, like, her thing is kind of like fairy tales retelling, and this is one. Like, this is multiple ones actually, because Cinder is about Cinderella, as you can guess by the name, but it is like in the future. So instead of losing her slipper for the ball, she loses her whole entire feet because she is a cyborg. And the second one is Scarlet. So this is about Red Hood. I forgot how you say it in English. And Wolf, and she's just a girl, and actually she's quite badass. She's a Frenchie like me, and she's ginger. She has this red hood, of course, because why not, but it's just jumper. Her side character is called Wolf, and he's kind of like a werewolf, but it's like he's part of some sort of army of the lunar people that lives on the moon. They are governed by this very mean queen that is actually the evil queen, like the equivalent of the evil queen in Snow White, which is Winter, because she's her niece and the princess, and she talks to animals and kind of stuff like that, and she's a bit cray-cray, but we love her. And that's kind of funny because Winter, so there's the common theme of snow/winter in those both names, but since she's not white because she's a black girl, she doesn't get the Snow White gig. She is the most beautiful girl ever, like everybody looks at her and they are like beautiful, and so she's jealous of her, the evil queen. Like that's the typical storyline, but that's the only thing that is in common, because this is the 4th book, so in between there's Cress, that is literally Rapunzel. She is not stuck in a tower, she's stuck in a satellite, and she's waiting for her father, for her queen and father and everybody that gives her order to hack systems, and she follows things online and all. And then comes our beautiful Warner, my favorite character, aka the sidekick of Cinder. He is such a fun and charming guy. He's like literally is Flynn Rider actually. And he kind of like get her out of her satellite, and they go on a whole adventure together where she discovers the word, and she has such a basic crush on him, and he's like, yeah, but you're kind of too innocent for me, like that would be a bit abusive, you were so isolated from the rest of the world, but at the same time you're kind of cute. And well, that's like my favorite chip, in case you haven't understood. So in the first book, there's only Cinder's point of view. In the second one, it's alternating. Scarlet is supposed to be the main character, which is what I like about this series. It's the new main characters compared to Harry Potter and I guess Shadow and Chronicles are through the new books that are showing there are more and more different point of view and main characters. But actually in the first ones there was just Clary, I guess. In this one there's like dual pole for Scarlet and for Cinder, and in Cress there's in addition the point of view of Cress and Cinder and Scarlet as main characters, because sometimes there's also the intrusion of like some prince and some other male characters, but mostly we are following the females one. And in the last one, as the name says, there's Winter. And so Cinder has kind of a thing at the end with the ball. It follows the story. Scarlet is like kind of intertwined with the story, but from France because of her grandmother. And Cress, because she's watching all of that online, she gets called on for help for the adventures, so she joins the team, I guess. And Winter ends up meeting Scarlet because she's kind of saving her from her stuff, from her evil aunt, and everything is linked. So as usual, that's the kind of stuff I'm into. I'm into the evolutions of relations, the evolution of a relationship, as much romantic as friendship ones, as family kind of trope, and also character development. I absolutely love this series. It was such a fun twist with the fairy tales, and I guess that was one of the first rewritings I was confronting. I know Disney is kind of the rewritings of the original fairy tales, but that's the ones I grew up with, and to suddenly see these new points of view for the stories I grew up with, and to have so many action-packed scenes and kind of like futuristic vibe and this new society, and linking them together also, like that was so creative, and I loved it. I loved what Marissa Mayer did. So that's why I'm trusting her for this stars above book. So if you don't know this incredibly unseen before work of modern literature yet, these are novels that I recommend without hesitation for you. Like, come on, it is worth it. So that's about it for the 3 favorite books, series of books I actually love. So to recap, Harry Potter, the Shadowhunters Chronicles and the Lunar Chronicles, and these are my top 3. I don't know which one to pick as first. I would say usually Shadowhunters, but when I'm speaking of either of those 3, I'm like so much into it, I don't know, like the podium is constantly changing. Well, it is time for me to go back to my Kindle now. I wish for you, my fellow readers, to get good readings, as usual, and see you soon. Bye!